know what that means. We don't know. We just look what happens. Just go with the flow. We're gonna be fine.
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me all right? Okay, good. Kerrigan, are we good? Good. All right. Well, welcome to the first Diversity Dialogue of 2024. I am super excited for this Diversity Dialogue, mostly because I'm sharing with you a group of super awesome women, and that feels so great. Yeah. And so today's Diversity Dialogue is over the topic Women's Work, Cross-Cultural Community Building. It's March, it's Women's History Month, so I wanted to put a spotlight on some of the different things that I think some awesome women are doing. So let me just run down the agenda for the day. The first thing we'll do is have Miss Julie Sanchez come and present a little bit about the work she does in empowering women of color. Next, what we'll do is have a conversation with Julie and Clydia Early from the BIPOCA Art Gallery and Incubator, and they're going to talk about what it means to help cultivate women of color both professionally and creatively. And then we will transition to our last portion, which will have Rebecca Reeder facilitate a conversation with a group of women here. Their group is called Sister to Sister, and what they do is just meet monthly and have conversations, kind of like cross-cultural building and just getting to know people for who they are. And we talk about different things about the differences in our culture. And I'm a part of the Sister to Sister group, and it's been one of the most fascinating places I have found in Fort Wayne to just have a great conversation with genuine people. So I'm super happy to share this with you. My name is Heather Guy. I'm the Racial Justice Coordinator for the YWCA Northeast Indiana. Been in this position since May of last year. I firmly believe you can read the bio, but I think it's enough to say that I believe that it's a blessing to be someone else's blessing. And so I hope we remember that as we listen to what the ladies contribute today. I'd like to remind you for our Diversity Dialogue group rules. So in order to facilitate an open and honest discussion, we abide by these rules at each of our Diversity Dialogue sessions. Become humble in the name of learning. I like to say, listen with an open heart and open ears. Be open to new ideas. Give everyone a chance to speak. One person talks, all listen. There will be a Q&A portion after everything is done. So if you want to just sit on your questions and comments until then, I will make sure you get the mic. And at the YWCA, we believe in attacking the problem, not the person, and respecting the confidentiality of the personal views and stories shared during this experience. The YWCA Northeast Indiana invites you to join the Level Up Council. We believe that our community can only truly prosper when each member is accepted. If you are interested in being a part of this conversation, this is an opportunity to share networks, share ideas, share concerns. Please reach out to me at my YWCA email. And with that, I will introduce Ms. Julie Sanchez of Expert Business Solutions. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Yes. Good afternoon. I am very honored to be here today, and especially in this special month that honors all of our beautiful women today. And so I'm glad to be here. I wanted to start off with telling you a little bit about myself. I'm Julie Sanchez. I'm a loving wife. I've been married going on 39 years. I'm a devoted mother. I have 2 children. I have a son who will be 34 in May, and I have a daughter who will be 30 this year. And also I'm a social advocate. I love being in spaces to promote underestimated populations. In addition to that, since December 2019, I became really the most exciting thing in my life, a business owner. I'm a CEO. Thank you. of Expert Business Solutions, Expert Business Solutions. And let me see. So when I think about women's work, especially the work that we do, women, we're responsible for a lot of things, right? We do a lot of things. And I think about women, I think we do a lot of multitasking. We're juggling. We're juggling our careers and working with the community and working even on ourselves. We do a lot of things at one time. We're hard workers. And that's one thing about me. I'm a hard worker. Many times I'll get up in the morning and I'll work till late into the evening. And that makes sense because with that, I always had this feeling and motto that I'm a strong black woman. You know, it's like I would put on a super cape that said SBW. And I look at other black women, I'd be like,
Come on.
strong, strong black woman. And so what that meant to me that no matter what came my way, I was going to handle it, and I was going to handle it well. No matter what happened to me, I was going to bounce back. I was just going to bounce back, throw it all at me, bounce back. And this philosophy worked a long time for me. It was just fine until it didn't, and until it wasn't. And I came to a point in a space and time in my life where I faced a major crisis. And during that major crisis, I felt lost. I felt broken. And it was at that point that I had to reevaluate for myself who I am, what do I really believe, because it appeared that what I said I believed and my actions, they weren't matching up. And I had to think, what is left? What is left? And during that time, I'm so thankful that another woman spoke into me, and she saw something I didn't see, and she said, you know what? You could be an entrepreneur. And I thought, I could be an entrepreneur? Oh my goodness, you know? And then I was like, I could be an entrepreneur? You know, and I began to think, I could gain my power back. I could reimagine myself. I could reinvent who I was to align, what I did to align with the person I was inside. And it was like, at that moment, my soul took a breath. And what I want to say in the brief moments that I have, because I'm going to talk and then we're going to go into some dialogue, is that sometimes it takes someone outside of yourself to help you see yourself for the first time. And I began to see that instead of loss, instead of losing, that I was given a second chance to do what I loved, a second chance to inspire and advocate for women, a second chance to advance racial equity, especially with black professional women, and a second chance just to be the solution. And that's one thing, it's in my business name, but I really, really believe that whatever generation we are born to, we are a part of the solution for that generation. And I know sometimes you look at the news, at least I look at the news, and it just seems like it's kind of scary, a lot of craziness. But I really still believe I'm here for a reason, I'm part of the solution, and I believe you are too. So it's how my business was formed, Expert Business Solutions. And it's important to me that women have support systems of resilience. I don't believe anymore that I'm strong and I'm defined by the weight that I bear. I'm defined, my value is because of who I am, right? And today I'm an energy leadership coach, and in that role I provide professional development training and coaching, and I help leaders and teams develop solutions from a space of high energy. And I made an intentional choice that in my career I'm not going to back away from the problems in the world today. In fact, I'm going to lean in to the edgy, messy places within individuals' lives and within organizations so we can have and inspire real change. And with that, I decided I'm going to deal with tough issues. I'm going to just deal with the tough issues like racism and unconscious bias. And it took me a long time to understand that racism, like other mental trauma, it causes injury. Whether it's unconscious or not, it causes injury. And I think sometimes it causes injury because it's hard to define, it's hard to identify, it's invisible, it's hard to codify. It's really about the way you feel. And when we are injured, we get to a place, it seems like time stops. And we get stuck in the place of our injury. And the challenge with that is that we can then begin to see things only through the filter of our pain. And I kept saying, I'm a strong black woman. I'm a strong black woman. But I came to realize I was not impenetrable. I could not bear everything. And I was really simply only badly injured. And I noticed when you're injured, something happens, your voice changes. You know, like I can call a friend on the phone and like, how you doing? I'm like, wait, are you sick? You know, because you can hear something, right? I noticed when I was injured, my voice changed. The resilience was lost. The energy that made me Julie was gone. Something happened to me that was reflected in my voice. And today, before we end, I want to ask you, take an inventory. What does your voice sound like? In my work, I help leaders create resiliency and capacity because for many underestimated populations today, the world isn't simple. It's very complicated. It's very complex. And we're not going to always change our environment, and we need resilience to do the work of today. And I help organizations create leaders that have capacity because sometimes we don't see what we don't know. And we have to create capacity to see things bigger so we can have optimized solutions and better innovations for the future. And I help underestimated populations also navigate challenges. I have a saying that to learn, we need to respond to this day and age, but respond from a place of power instead of injury. And I also help, another thing I do is I bring organizations, help them bring polarized groups together so they can have sustainable innovation and changes. And with that, I'm going to segue over here to my partner, Clydia Early. She is the owner of the BIPOCA Incubator, and I know she's going to bring a video, and then we're going to have a discussion further about voice. And as that's happening, I want to say I did have the opportunity to visit her art gallery, and it was such a beautiful space that she creates for self-expression of artists. It's an expression. I want to have her understand of expression. She creates that space, and it's a space of elevation, and it's a beautiful experience. And so I'm going to turn that over to her.
Look, she's going to show the video.
I really entered into a real gallery was when I was a little girl. That was a gallery of pictures, and it was just amazing. I couldn't even believe that they put those on the wall and that people bought them. And I never thought about being a collector. I just bought art that I liked. That was where my love came from. My name is Clydia Early, curator and founder of BIPOCA Incubator and Gallery. For a long time, BIPOC artists and creators have not been at the table. There hasn't been spaces and places like these that have been there to promote and uplift those artists and creatives. Galleries like BIPOCA are important for the artists and the creatives, also for the community, so that the community can come in and see what BIPOC artists create, so the community can come in and participate in the creation of art with BIPOC artists. So there's a whole lot that can happen in these places and spaces. BIPOCA is seeking $15,000 to help us in 3 different areas. First, for incubation of BIPOC artists. Next, to help us pay for our space. And then for exhibitions of BIPOC artists' work. The reason incubation is needed is because a lot of artists, they don't necessarily know how to get out there and let people know what they're doing or even show their work to anyone. So part of what BIPOCA does is to help artists get over that challenge. If you contribute to BIPOCA's GoFundMe campaign today, here's some things that you can look forward to. We are giving away pieces of art that have been done specifically by local artists here. That is so exciting because you can't, oh God, you would not believe the pieces that are gonna be available. For people who donate at a certain level, we're gonna have a dinner here in BIPOCA. It will be our first dinner and it's going to be called A Plate of Art. Another thing is it will allow you to participate in some community workshops, which will be fun. We have a couple of different ones coming up. We'd love for you to contribute to our GoFundMe, but if you are unable to do that, you can find us on Facebook, and you can also email us at bipocagallery@gmail.com. If you can't reach us any of those ways, just flag me down when you see me walking down the street, okay? I will stop. But I appreciate you, and I look forward to hearing from you soon.
Now you know who I am and who BIPOCA is. I am originally from Fort Wayne, and I grew up here, moved away, got on the first plane smoking to California when I graduated, and ended up coming back, being married. Been here for 35 years, married for 35 years. I have 3 children. My oldest is 38 years old. My baby is 27, and then my middle daughter is 32. So I feel like I am a community builder, and it has always been something that I have practiced and worked on doing here in Fort Wayne. I wanted to talk a little bit quickly because Julie said something about voice. I heard her say something about voice, and I want to say something about my voice, all right? So here now you see me talking and laughing and ha-ha and kikiing, and we were talking, and I was telling her that I had, when I was young and when I was little, I didn't use my voice. I mean, I used my voice, but then I would hold stuff in and wouldn't say it. And so every year of my life, I remember from being 6 years old, I would have strep throat. You know, like strep throat. But when you're little, you don't think about that. And every time my mom wanted to take my tonsils out, I was like, no, please, just let me go. I'm going to be okay. It's going to live. And I got over it. You know what I'm saying? But it just happened every year, even into my 30s. I would have strep throat. And then one day it went away. And I was like, oh. Then I had a thyroid issue. I went from having strep throat to having thyroid issues, meaning, and I'm still saying to you, I'm never thinking about my voice, but I know that I'm swallowing stuff and that I'm not saying things, and that I was scared or didn't know how to say things. And it was like, whoo. And I remember my mother telling me when I was a little girl, I would be laughing loud over in the corner, okay? I'd be the big mouth girl. She would say, you know, you need to practice that laugh. It needs to be like this, you know. And you know what? All I can think about now is that it was just really making me swallow my voice. And I did that for years and years. And I told Julie that it changed. My thyroid has been removed. I had to have it removed. And I still was like, you know, going through this voice thing. And I began to use my voice. And I'm going to tell you, because this is the accumulation of it. It just happened that I know that I have a voice and that I'm going to use it and nobody's going to stop me. I did a pitch competition. And at the pitch competition, it was me and 2 other people. Sorry, guys, I'm an emotional person. I got to the point now, I just cry when I want to. I used to try to stop it and be like, oh, you know, I'm sorry. Or when I seen that thing on TV, it said, are you crying? No, maybe you need to get some help. And then I thought, you know what? Whatever. So I am emotional. I go through it. I come back, okay? I just want you guys to know, I'm good. And so I got into this pitch competition. And it was for BIPOCA, what I'm doing. And I'm going to tell you, I was going to drop out because I had never done that before. And the other piece of it is I didn't know that I could talk. And I was like, you know, I'm not going to be able to really do this and say, I don't know if I'm going to be able to say it. And my sister said, be quiet, you're going to do it. And my daughter was like, yes, you're going to do it. We're going to help you. They were like, no, you're going to do it. And I was like, okay. So I sat down with a young lady that I'm working with, and we answered the questions that were in the little boxes for the pitch competition. And then I really didn't even know how much it was exactly. And then I found out that there were 6 people. The 6 people that were in it, everybody had dropped out except for 3 people. And I was one of them. And I was like, I need to drop out. This is crazy. Why am I those 2? And then I found out that the 2 people that I was going up against were 2 young men, you know, smart, IT, active, on the computer, knowing those things. One was a geologist. One was a brand marketer. I already knew, you know, I'm just saying. I was like, And my sister and my daughter and my person, Clarity, helped me. And my daughter said, Mama, just stick to your numbers. Just look at your numbers on the screen. Don't worry about anything else. You know your numbers. You can justify your numbers. I'm like, I can justify my numbers. Okay, I'm going to be able to justify my numbers. I'm going to get it from it. But I was just thinking I'm not going to be able to talk. That's what I was kept. You know what I'm saying? How you get that lump in your throat and you're swallowing. And so we get up there, and I'm going to speed through it. And she's like, stick to your numbers. The only time you're going to sway from your numbers is if they ask you a different question, because you can justify them. And she was right. I could. And she had them on the screen, and they looked so big, and they were nice, and I had my little prompts at the top. And, of course, I had to go first. I tried not to, but BIPOCA was a B, and then my name was a C, so I had to go first. And so I went first, and I got up there, and you know already, I was scared. I'm telling you, for real. I didn't know if I could have my voice. I was just like, okay. I see my family out there, and I was like, okay, you can do this, Clydia. And I would just start talking, and I would just do the prompts, and I was saying, next, you know. And I had looked at Google, you guys, for that 2 days. I looked at everything on Google to see what pitches would win, who won, and what women won, and what they said, and what they wore, and everything. Because I was like, okay, I'm going in here ready. I'm going to be looking good, and I'm going to know what you got to say. And I got up there, and I did that. And then the guys came after me. And the first guy, he had a screen, and he had all his words written real little, and he got lost in the words. And he didn't know what he really wanted. And I was like, oh. And then the geologist got up there, and he was good. But I think he was talking to the wrong audience. That's what Google said. He wasn't talking to the investors. And so they did everything, and, you know, because I didn't know what he understood we were saying. But, hey, who am I? I don't know what they think about carbon dioxide and all that stuff. So we went out the room, and because they were smart, and I knew they knew what they had stuff. And they called us back in. And they said, BIPOCA won. BIPOCA won. I used my voice. My voice is what helped me to do that. And so I encourage every one of you, when you're scared, and they say do it anyway, do it anyway. Because you don't ever know what's at the other side. You don't ever know what's going to come from that. Your voice is important. I had to get to be 63 years old to use and know how important my voice is. You can know now. You can know now to use your voice. A pitch competition, you guys. Made my day. I was so happy and so excited. I couldn't believe it. But I also, it brought me back around to, you know what, all those times when I had strep throat, when I had to have my thyroid removed, when I was swallowing stuff and I wasn't talking, I felt like I couldn't talk. I was afraid to talk. So I am here now to encourage you and talk about you having a voice and how to use that and how far it'll take you. I can look at the women here in the room. Some of the women I know already. That's why because those women have poured into me and helped me to have a voice and supported me and been there for me. So it's very important. I had to tell that story, you guys, because it like touched my heart, and it was a whole like full circle that I came. It was a whole full circle when I saw it. When I won the pitch, I was like, oh my God, I used my voice. Oh my God, I used to have strep throat. Oh, they took my thyroid. It was just like you saw everything. You know how you see all your things in your life? I saw it then. So I had to tell that story.
I have a question for you, Clydia. How does your voice play into the work you do? I know that for me, I build capacity and resilience for professional women and leaders. That's the work that I do. But as far as for you, I know you build capacity for artists. So how does the voice of your soul or your expression come into play with the work you do with your artists?
Well, you know, when I'm working with BIPOC artists, I always come with love. I come from the heart. I do that with everyone. Someone said to me, Clydia, this is business. Why are you acting personal? Why is it? I said, I'm personal in business. That's what I do. I'm personal with everybody that I'm with. Everybody, if you know me, I'm personal, okay? It's going to be a personal relationship. We'll do business. And I know how to separate business and personal, but that's who I am. That's how I make it happen. And so with the artists and the BIPOC artists that I work with, because if you don't know it, it is very hard for a BIPOC artist and possibly artists everywhere to trust. It's hard for them to trust anybody with their pieces and their art and their work. And the other part of it is that they need all of their money. So when I talk about, the gallery getting some money, they like, so they need all of that. So it's about when I say incubation, it's still nurturing. It's a nurturing process. And I work with each artist. And through the incubation part, we offer artist workshops. And so giving them the workshops to it's not just about doing art. It's about knowing who you are for BIPOCA and being okay with who you are so that you can continue to grow as an artist. So one of the workshops that we give and offer to our artists is called Creative Marketing and Meditation. And you think about that because you're thinking, oh, meditation. But artists sometimes just need to calm down. So we try to work with them in different ways, but it's really a nurturing experience that I would say that I've been having. And also with the incubation part, the gallery is wonderful because the gallery enables them to show their pieces and their art and to sell them and to get money. But the incubation part is the most important because it talks about if you're going to continue on to be an artist and if that's really what you want to do. And so that's what BIPOCA helps you to do and get out there. You're welcome.
Well, when I think, as I'm listening to you talk about the experience that you're creating for beautiful for folks that do creatives. And I think, I work with women, and I also work with entrepreneurs, because in order to be an entrepreneur, you're a kind of a weird duck, because you keep going and you keep doing things when you see things that other people, like a painter, doesn't see.
Yes.
And you believe in a vision that may not have come to manifest right now. And so I think when I deal with my work with bringing polarized groups together, a lot of that does have to do with things like experience, because you can work with individuals and teams and organizations. You could bring in new sites and innovations, and you can talk about solutions and all of the information. But if you don't have an experience created, like if you don't bring the person to the job, it's about the work experience that is created for every individual. That's going to determine how they show up. It's going to determine the ability for them to optimize solutions. It's going to determine all of those things, the experience. So while you craft experiences for the artists and this for them, it's important even in the workplace. Emotions are important. They're not the root of all things, but that's what the core of these things impact someone's emotions, which is going to impact the experience that they have. And so that's why when we do energy leadership coaching, we understand you bring the whole person, and we have to deal with the issues of today. We have to learn how to shift our energy when it has been impacted, when someone has hurt us. It's like an invisible thing, but it's like if you were hit again by a Mack truck, we would know what to do. But if you're invisibly hit by a Mack truck, we don't really know what to do with that. And so the experiences that we create in the work experience is valuable and needed for lasting sustainability.
I was going to say, too, we need role models. Women need role models. I work with I work with the artists, but I need women, too. I need a role model. I need people who are open and I can go talk to, and I need a mentor. I'm being honest as a entrepreneur, as a businesswoman, and that's something that Julie and I talked about, because when you're a businesswoman or an entrepreneur, sometimes you feel like you're out there all alone. You're out there by yourself, because she said that she got up and went to work and didn't come home to the evening. My sister said to me the other night, she was like, "Where you been?" I said, "Oh, I've been gone." She was like, "Yeah, all day, all night." And I was like, and she's just saying, you got to pace yourself. You got to do this. But we as women, I need role models. We need role models to show us, and there's role models out there that we can look at and see how to move from one space to the next space and do different things. And Julie and I were just talking about that. How does that happen? How does that work? How do we reach out to women and get those role models and make that happen?
Yeah, it's very important. Even though I talk about, we live in a very polarized world. And I do believe that it's important, especially for Black professional women, to have spaces to come together where we can find our voice and affirmation. But I ultimately believe it is a work that we have to do together, those tough issues. And it sounds like it, many times as minorities, we're like, we're just going to pull ourselves up. Or women, by our bootstraps, and women, we're going to break up that ceiling. Okay, come on in there. Well, that is, we can do it only to a point. And I know that this is pretty controversial, but I feel like we can only do it to a point. Dr. Chester Pierce and microaggressions, that's been said since 1970, but we're still talking about it today. There's a point where we need somebody at the table to open the doors. And I believe when it came to racism in 2020, we saw a shift because we saw white young people, white individuals. They said what we've always said. They said Black lives matter. And when the majority said it and we walked together, change happens. And that's what I believe we need today.
Are we done? We good? Okay.
Just for now, Clydia.
Okay, I'm stopping. I'm looking.
I will have the sister-to-sister guest join here. But can we give another round of applause to these two sisters, please? And so it's a really great conversation to have. It is important for each individual to find their voice. That is only one step of cross-cultural building, right? If you're an individual who is secure in themselves, then differences won't necessarily be that much of a threat to you. So evolving from finding your voice to actually modeling exchange of different voices, I think, is a great way of thinking about this next group. Sister to Sister has been meeting for 4 years. I'll let them tell that story. I've only joined in the last couple of months. But I can tell you the exchange of voices there, it's cross-generational, it's cross-cultural, and it's just a great space to be in terms of finding another perspective. One of the first ones that I went to, they talked about differences in funeral culture. What a fascinating conversation to have, right? And so that's how easy it is. So I want to introduce Rebecca Reeder. She will be facilitating this conversation, and I just want us to look at this as an opportunity to see how cross-cultural communication, exchange, building, this group is a great model for that. And so I am so excited to share this with you. Take it away.
Thank you, Heather. My name is Rebecca Reeder. I have actually been part of this group for a little while, not as often as I'd like to go, but I have. So let's take a minute and let each of you introduce yourselves briefly.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tracy Davis.
Just tell us what you do.
Okay. So if the conversation goes well, I am associated with my employer. If it doesn't, I am not.
Same.
My name is Tracy Davis. I am the Executive Director of Community Relations, Diversity, Equity, and Belonging for the Fort Wayne Warsaw Ivy Tech campus.
My name is Courtney Teagarden. I'm the Director of Marketing for the Hagerman Group.
I am Jessica Shannon. I'm CEO and owner of Center for Life Transitions, which is a company for intellectually disabled individuals.
Okay, thank you. So Tracy, I'm going to ask you, would you tell us a little bit about how this all got started?
So first, Heather, thank you for having us. I am always so excited to talk about Sister to Sister and how we started. So as Julie mentioned, in 2020, I think we were all seeing unprecedented times with COVID and with the murder of Mr. George Floyd. COVID just forced us to all be still. We couldn't go anywhere, and you couldn't do all of the things that allowed us to go about in our normal days. And so as a result of the George Floyd murder, another lady came to me because she was just so disturbed. She was a Caucasian woman, and we had traveled in professional circles and kind of knew each other peripherally, not on a personal level at all. And she came to me, and she probably was a safe space for her, and I'm so thankful that she approached me. Tracy, I can't believe what I'm seeing. What do I do with this? I need to understand what I'm seeing and what's happening in our country. And we just had a conversation. We sat for 2 hours and we just talked. And so we didn't want the conversation to end. And so she invited some of her friends, and I invited some of my friends, and we've been meeting ever since.
Thank you. So this group is a little bit different than other kinds of groups because you're not going to find a Facebook presence, probably. Nope. You're not going to find a sign-up sheet. You kind of get involved in a different way. So Courtney and Jessica, could you tell us how you got involved in this program? Well, it's not even a program, this group.
I actually attended, it was at some time in the summer of 22, I attended, it was a discussion on something with diversity. I can't remember what the discussion was, but it was through the Community Foundation. And Tracy and I both happened to be there. I've never met her, but she and I both kept like raising our hands, being vocal in the conversation. Mm-hmm. And you brought up Sister to Sister, and you said, I've formed this group. And so I just walked up to her afterwards and said, I'm really interested in learning more. Can I come to that? And almost 2 years later, I'm still going. So,
I've known Tracy, I want to say all my life. It's been We just had our 30-year class
Don't
reunion.
say that, Jessica!
Not trying to age ourselves, but we've known each other since high school, and she told me about the group, and I have been passionate about advocating for civil rights since I was a small girl, so it sounded very exciting to me, and I went to the first meeting and have been going ever since.
Before we continue, I'd like to recognize Miss Michelle Vasquez. Michelle is also a member of Sister to Sister. I didn't want to forget to do that. Raise your hand, Michelle.
Hey, Michelle.
She wouldn't get up here, so I have to embarrass her a little bit. Michelle has been coming since that first meeting as well.
Jessica, I know you've thought long and hard about how to describe this group. Would you like to share with us what you've been thinking?
Yeah, so as I thought about what this group meant and the impact that it has had on me, I had so many thoughts. It's so layered and so hard to describe. So last night I was writing down my thoughts, and I'm going to go ahead and read them so I don't forget anything. So I can't think of another group or setting that spans across multi-generations as well as multi-cultures in this way. Because we are living in different stages, we experience a wide range of life events. Some of us are mourning spouses or family members, while others are welcoming their first child or grandchild, and others are navigating their education. Socioeconomically and professionally, we occupy different spaces on the spectrum of life and all bring different perspectives. Our group has built a stronger, more respectful, and more loving community across the very lines of differences that traditionally causes conflict, distrust, and hate. At a time when America's viability as a multiracial democracy is still very much in question, this group has proven that we can co-create something truly special and maybe even change the world. If we see each other in all of our humanity and fully embrace what not only makes us fundamentally alike, but also what makes us different, we can begin to transform lives and put us on a path to greatness. Humanity is worth fighting for.
Thank you. So what are some of the conversations and activities that you found to be insightful or inspirational?
All of them.
That's right. You
Well,
know,
tell us some of the things that you've done.
so I think a big part of what we do at Sister to Sister is really we make it very comfortable for conversations to occur. We have ground rules. One of those is that we're not going to discuss politics, even though we know that voting and politics are at the forefront of a lot of discussions that need to be had. We stay away from that because, you know, that is such a polarizing thing at this moment in our country to discuss. So we do put ground rules in place. We even have safe words if someone feels like they are being pushed to a point where they're too uncomfortable, you know, there's a safe word that they can use. But part of what makes this group so special is that we can have the uncomfortable conversations while feeling valued and heard and understood. And I think that having that sisterhood and really getting to know the other ladies and where they come from and what's going on with them, as well as their perspective on different things that are happening in our world today, really it brings value to our group.
And speaking about it being multi-generational, the oldest member of our group is an 87-year-old retired social studies teacher, and the youngest is a freshman in high school. So, I mean, conversations are really interesting because there's so many perspectives and people that lived through different things or are, you know, in the freshman in high school's case, she's still living through things right now that are confusing. And so it's a really great group to just sit and learn from, honestly, through honest conversation.
If I could interject, I just want to maybe back up a little bit and talk about the structure and how we do what we do. First of all, I'm amazed that we're still meeting 4 years later. If any of you have ever been a part of something and knows that sustainability and the keeping the engagement and the interest going for 4 years is not an easy fate. So we've been meeting 4 years. We started in June of 2020, and we meet monthly. We have 11 meetings per year. We meet once between November and December to avoid the holidays. And each meeting, we meet at a different location. It's often each other's houses, in our homes. It's sometimes out in the community if we want to do or highlight different things or learn about a different piece of our city. The reason for that is because I can't know Courtney. I can't call her a friend. I can't learn about her if that doesn't happen, if we don't impact each other's lives in that way. I want them to understand that the systems that have baked our biases into our core oftentimes aren't true. We get misinformation all the time, and so they need to know that my husband is a black man. They need to know that my husband has a job, and my son is not a drug dealer, and my son is a college sophomore that is majoring in business. And so I want them to know all of those things so that we can begin to break down those biases, those stereotypes, those systemic impacts and effects that they have on all of our consciousness, and vice versa. I want to know what Michelle's family is like. I want to know her children. And so that's how our meetings are structured and how we've been operating for the last four years.
Kudos to Tracy. I just want to say that she has never wavered. Even when she was going through hard times, she still had the meetings, sent out the invites, and she's been amazing in keeping this group together and keeping it going. And it means so much to the people that are involved in the group. You know, even if we have stuff going on, that's one thing we have to look forward to each month, to get together and really have these conversations and support each other.
And I just want to add one more thing. The other interesting thing about hosting at each other's houses is whoever's the host gets to choose the topic. So, it's a wide range of what we talk about, what the platform is. Are we going to do an activity? Are we going to watch a video and talk about it? Are we going to, Michelle one time brought a book and we all read a passage from it, and then I ended up buying the book and reading the whole book. So it's very open in that way too, that it's like, what do you want to talk about? You host, you figure it out, you navigate it, and then we all participate. So that's been good too.
Another reason for that is because, so it's just not Tracy's opinion.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to be the black woman that Tracy said, and so we all are responsible for the learning. We all do the work, and they're all different perspectives, and so it's really, really, really worked well for us.
Mm-hmm. And we have a common interest of wanting to find out how we can make changes in the world. And I think that is what brought us together. That is what keeps us together. And to be honest, there have been members that have fallen off because sometimes it does get really difficult and hard. And we speak the truth as we know it. And sometimes the truth is really hard to hear. So we have had people that stopped attending, but the people that continue to go, I think that, that's because we all have that common interest of wanting to change the world right now.
So your comments brought up a couple of questions. First of all, how has this group changed over the years, over the 4 years? Is it different than it was to begin with? And how do you navigate those uncomfortable situations that maybe cause some people to back away from the group?
So the difficult conversations, part of the ground rules are that we use a phrase called "help me to understand." So if someone says something that is maybe hard to hear or harsh, and in the back of our head we're thinking, okay, that doesn't sound right, we ask in a way, please help me understand what you meant by that, or what you were saying. And a lot of times as people talk through and try to explain something they just said, it'll start to manifest in their head, okay, that doesn't sound right. Maybe I need to think a little further on that and change my view a little bit. So that's one of the things that we do to help with the hard conversations.
In addition to the help me understand, one of the things that we wanted to do is equip the participants to go out and create the ripples. And by the ripples, sister to sister, we're throwing pebbles in the pond. And the hope is that the ripples create change within your families, your circles, your friends. And as all of us go back out into our circles and our spaces, we want to help change or create those ripples. And help me understand was a way that we wanted to give a tool to some of the sisters, because some of the questions I loved it when we first started the group, the ladies would call me. Some of my white sisters would call me and say, Tracy, I experienced this and I was so angry and I didn't know what to do. Or this happened and what should I have done, or what can I say? And so we came up with the help me to understand, or let me help you understand, as you're in your different circles, as people were in their families. You know, holidays are a big time. You got all of your family, and if the culture in that space is to say things that are hateful, derogatory, and just flat out not true, it was a way to equip the ladies to say, let me help you understand while your information is false, or help me understand what you mean or why you think that those types of things are okay. And what we learned is that it helps really break down the defense mechanisms that we sometimes immediately jump into when somebody questions, honestly, what we've been made to believe our entire lives. Mm-hmm. What was that question again, Rebecca? You asked, what's changed?
What's changed
Well,
from the
I know-
beginning,
yeah.
right?
You know,
No one should ever ask a two-part question.
I know, right? What's changed?
So I don't think that the group has changed too much, or the dynamics of it, other than, different people who have come and gone, and primarily the people that do come to the group are people that, we know and we have conversations with out in the community and say, hey, this sounds like something maybe you could benefit from, or we could benefit from your ideas and your knowledge. So
I think, for me personally, I think the group has really changed my thinking because, I think as a Black person, when you encounter those microaggressions or those systems that are negatively impacting you, it is really easy to say, or to not trust individuals that don't look like you. And so one of the things that I've learned is that sometimes when things happen, they're not malicious, they're not intentional. And those systems of systemic racism and those biases, they impact us all. Religion is a big system. And even Black people, even we buy into some of those systems. And so really helped me look at myself and how I navigate the world, and just really understanding that these ladies and that come to this group, they are in it to learn, they are in it to be better. And so just really making me look inside myself to say, okay, Tracy, what do you need to be working on?
yeah, that's to piggyback off of that. When I started the group in 2020, I was pretty angry. As I said, my my mother and father, they were born and grew up in Decatur, Indiana, and a lot of my dad's family was racist. But when he went to the military and he told me the story of, you know, having his black brothers, you know, helping to save his life and do all of these things in the military, that he finally came to the conclusion that, oh my gosh, you know, we are all the same. So they intentionally raised me in a part of town where I would be raised in, excuse me, a diverse neighborhood. And, you know, it's been tough because it's not popular being the person who speaks out and speaks up and does the uncomfortable conversations. And I've lost some family members because, you know, they don't want to hear the things that I've said, or they've seen something on Facebook that I posted and think because they're a police officer and I'm responding to what's going on in the community that I hate police, and it's the furthest from the truth. You know, it's hard to have those conversations. But this group has really helped me kind of put my anger at these situations into perspective and learn how to have those conversations, even with family members who have some opposite views.
And I want to add something to that. There's a phrase that, like, it's not my job to feel uncomfortable so you can feel comfortable. And I feel like there are times where conversations get a little heated because we have different perspectives and you know that the other person is uncomfortable, and sometimes I'm the person that's uncomfortable. But I feel like you have to acknowledge, like, I'm uncomfortable because this is something I'm not familiar with. I'm uncomfortable because I don't have this perspective. I'm uncomfortable because I don't have the education about this that I need to fully understand it. And so even the approach, just the help me understand, has been very valuable to me, to be able to ask questions freely in a room where I know women are going to be respectful and give me answers that will actually give me things to think about and continue to gain more perspective on issues that I want to do better at and I want to fully understand, but I don't have the experiences sometimes to have that perspective. So, yeah.
So you've kind of touched on this, but without really, specifically using the terminology. But many of us are interested in what it means to be an ally and allyship. What do you think it means to be an ally? And has this group given you any specific tools for allyship?
I'd like to answer this because we have talked about this specifically. Something happened last fall that a lot of us had a conversation with. It was in the news, and I mean, we don't really need to get into it, but the point is, a lot of the women in the group said, you know, well, what should I do if I'm in this situation? Because I think there's a fine line between, I'm not speaking on behalf of my business, I'm speaking for myself, I don't know. I just don't know what I'm about to say. But there's a fine line between, like, being the white savior and being helpful, and being like, you're making it worse sometimes by trying to help. So this group has helped me understand, to use the phrase, I didn't even mean to, but help me to understand, like, when is it appropriate to step in when something is going on as a white woman versus when is it not my business and just let this play out because the people involved have got it, even though you might want to help. So I think, what was even the question?
What do you think allyship
Yes,
is, and what tools have you gained?
And so the tools that I have gained is just knowing, like, when is it appropriate to use my voice and when is it time for me to sit down and listen? And when is it appropriate for me to be an ally versus when is it time for me to be the audience?
Also, I think, you know, being a white person, many times we as white people will say, well, I'm not racist. You know, and that may be true and that may be our own perspective, but just saying that we're not racist and we don't intentionally want to harm people is not enough to change things that are going on in our country. We need to educate ourselves, we need to read, we need to join groups like this, we need to speak up, and we need to advocate. So that's something that this group has also taught us as well.
Thank you. So you've talked about a lot of heavy stuff that we've done over the 4 years. I know you've done some things just for fun and fellowship. What kind of things have you done, and how did that go?
Do you want to talk about socks?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So our December meeting every year, we just kind of bring snacks and we exchange socks. Don't ask me how we started with socks. Probably because that first year, Old Navy has these Christmas socks, and you can get a black Santa Claus on the socks. And so that's probably how it started. So I bought a bunch of black Santa Claus socks and gave it to the women. And so that's always a really fun meeting. We just, you buy the socks and kind of why you chose those particular socks, and we exchange the socks. And others, we've had celebrations. So this year we, for our 4-year anniversary, all of the women that have ever participated in Sister to Sister, we're inviting them in, and we just want to do a big picnic. In our meetings, there are only women that attend, and so our annual celebration allows the spouses to come and know all the ladies, their children to come. And so we're really looking forward to having that reunion, so to speak, this year.
We went to an art gallery together.
Yeah. So every meeting is different.
Okay, thank you. So how have all of these conversations and activities and this time spent together, how's it changed your perspective?
I don't know that it hasn't changed my perspective. My perspective coming in was like, I want to know what I can do. I want to keep doing the work. I want to keep learning. But it's definitely expanded my network with people I'm sure I never would have met otherwise. And like Tracy said, being able to go to each other's houses in different parts of town with different socioeconomic backgrounds and things, that's good for all of us. I think that it's just, it's maybe broadened my perspective. I don't know that it's changed it, but it's definitely giving me more to think about, more people to ask for advice if I am confused about something that happens or how to navigate it. And yeah, it's just very thought-provoking and yeah.
So Tracy was very intentional when she started the group by inviting people from smaller towns outside of Fort Wayne. And me being a city girl and being raised in the city and in a diverse community, I kind of my perspective was that my family members who also live in small towns, that everyone that lives in small towns thinks the same way. And it kind of opened me up to know that, no, not all people think that way. They need tools, they need education, but, the group, I think, getting to know the other women with different lives and cultures and the way that they grew up has really, broadened my perspective.
We have 3 women that come from Bluffton, Indiana, and so they drive the 50 minutes to come to our meetings, and that is so special to me. Just because they are committed to the conversation. It's a very, very important piece to their lives. They are gaining the skills and knowledge and the desire to teach their children something different, which is so, so important.
Has there ever been a time when you found it really difficult to allow yourself to be vulnerable?
You know, I'll share that I really, really believe that sister to sister is ordained by God. And what I mean by that is during the George Floyd murders and all of the police-involved shootings that were happening in our country, it seemed like there was something that was happening every couple of weeks. And every time that there was something that I would see on the TV that would have me so angry, there were times where I was just in tears. And we wouldn't meet for another maybe week or two after every incident where I was so angry and so hurt. After every incident, we didn't have a meeting right away. And what that allowed me to do is calm down and get my emotions in check so that I wouldn't come and do damage to the group. And so I'm just so grateful for that because it allowed me to keep myself in check so that this could continue. I don't know if that answered your question at all. Sorry.
It's okay.
I think there have been times where it's obvious that people are feeling very vulnerable, or they'll even say, well, my perspective is different than yours, and they'll share it. And there have been times where internally I might want to like scream at someone because I'm like, how could you think that? But then in my head, I'm like, they probably think that about what I just said. Mm-hmm. So it's just a very unique space to have these conversations because you are very vulnerable in these moments and you are saying things that you might not be comfortable saying in front of everyone. And so it can be hard, but I would say it's gotten easier as I've been in it for almost 2 years, just trusting these women and knowing that like this is a safe space, we can share these things. And I know one meeting in particular, I felt like me and someone else were having completely opposite opinions. And afterwards I went up to her and I just said, I hope you know, like, I respect your opinion. I hope you respect mine. Like, I respect that we could have that conversation and neither one of us walked out and aren't gonna come back. Like, so those moments happen. And I think they just, at least for me, it makes me stronger in knowing that like I can have these hard conversations and I can gain, I can learn from someone who thinks completely differently than I do, and I, broadens my perspective. Again, it does.
Thank you.
I'm a pretty blunt person, and she's like, yes, you are. Maybe my vulnerability comes out in bluntness, but I mean, I have felt vulnerable before, but this group.
In case somebody can hear you.
This group has taught me how to be vulnerable and present my opinions without all of the rough edges and how to say it in a respectful manner. So, yeah, I've learned a lot.
So has this group, the previous panel talked about voice and changing your voice. Has this group really changed your voice outside of the safe space of the group?
I would say for me, I've always been, I mean, there are people in this room who know me. I have never shied away from saying what I think or speaking up for others or whatever. But I would say that I used to come at it maybe if someone said like something that was racist around me and I'd be like, I can't believe they just said that. I might have just ignored it. And now I'll be like, help me understand what you meant by that. For real. I've done that to people. And then they're like, because now they're cornered. Like, back up what you just said. Why did you say that? So I think it has empowered me to feel that I can confront those things and I can say them in the moment. And I don't care if you're my coworker or you're my family member or who you are. I'm going to say it. And now you have to tell me what you meant by what you just said. And 9 times out of 10, that works really well.
That's right. Well, this is a small and unique group, and it's intentionally small. Clearly, if it's going to meet in people's homes, it can't be all that large. And some of you may be thinking, gee, I'd like to be part of that group, or maybe I'd like to start a group like that. And that's actually how I met Tracy. I was part of a conversation where we were thinking about starting a similar group, and she gave me some really good advice on how to get started. So would you like to share with some people your thoughts about what do you do if you think you'd like to start a group like this?
I think you just have to have somebody that's a champion, that can keep the initiative going. You have to have somebody that's responsible for coordinating the meetings, that has a heart to want to share and learn, and just start having the conversation. We started with 10 ladies at that first meeting. I think the smallest group that we've probably ever had on our monthly meetings was maybe 6, and we've probably had up to 23 at any particular meeting. But just start the conversation. You'd be amazed at what you can learn when you just start to talk to somebody that doesn't look like you. Another thing that I don't know. What did I tell you?
And just do it.
Just do it. Yeah.
The other thing I think that you told me was to, because I was concerned about, well, what are we going to do every time? And I think something that you said was just to sort of allow some of that to evolve and let the group help you decide the direction of the group.
Dang, that's good advice. I'm brilliant, aren't I?
I appreciate it.
I would like to hear some questions from anybody in the audience or comments for us.
Well, before we do questions, let's give them a round of applause. Great job. I will open up the floor for questions. I'll have the mic. I will hold on to the mic as you ask your question, if that's all right. So if there's any questions. And our guests from earlier are still here if you want to direct any questions at them as well.
I was just wondering, is this more conversational and then you take it away with you and you have conversations with other people to learn something? Or is there I'm in a group right now and I'm finding it to be where I don't want to be in it as much because we talk and talk and talk and we don't do anything. So I'm starting to feel a little like, I'm tired of this conversation. Let's do something.
Yeah, that's one of the things early on that I was encouraging the group. Do we want to attach ourselves to an organization or a movement or some action? And I would approach it occasionally and then maybe another 6 months, a year later early on. But I didn't want to force something on the group that we didn't want to do. And so we haven't done any activism in the community. So no, not at this time. We just talk. But it's current events that we're talking about. It's things that are happening in our lives. And so I think not from an outward community perspective, but a personal inward perspective that lives are being changed by us just knowing each other and having access and being in proximity to each other.
And we've also been given homework assignments sometimes. So Tracy was very intentional about us wanting to pair up with another sister and go out for coffee or for dinner so that we can really get to know each other and speak personally about things that maybe they weren't comfortable enough to talk about in the larger group. And I think that that is part of breaking down the barriers is by really getting to know someone that's not like yourself, and really trying to have relationships with those that are not just like you.
If I might address that too, I wouldn't sell short the conversations. Sometimes it seems like, we're not doing anything, all we're doing is talking. But sometimes those conversations can be like going to church or going to a motivational lecture. You're not doing anything at the moment, it feels like, but it motivates you to go out and do things. It keeps you and it keeps your head in the game and keeps you excited about what it is you think you can accomplish.
Before her question, I want to share just exactly what Rebecca said. Within our first year, we had one of our members' husband died suddenly. And so we went to that funeral service as a group, sister to sister. And after that funeral, the ladies were like, oh my God, this is the first African American funeral service that I had ever gone to. And that they were so in awe of the differences between just that activity, just that engagement. And so that's an experience that they would have never, ever had in a different perspective. So,
And to go beyond that, as part of the sisterhood, we all wore the same color to the funeral so that we could represent our sister group. And afterwards, we had a meal train where each of us took a day to take over food and things like that. So the bond in the group is, really, really important.
I think what you ladies doing is excellent, and you kind of alluded to my question, is it only about race and trying to get to, but you do a little more. I think that's excellent. Kudos to all of you.
thank you. And we're all women, so we talk about issues that are specific to women, our children, so, yeah.
Hi, thank you so much for being here. One of the things that's been on my mind for a while is the racism that's been pervasive in Southwest Island County schools. And I know you say you don't do any activism, but just by you being here is definitely being active. And I'm just wondering if that's something you all have, if that specific school system, their issues, are anything that you've talked about or considered reaching out to them, or what are some other things we could do as community members to put them on the right path? And then I also have a question for Julie. So,
Yikes.
We've talked about it.
Yeah.
Actually, the freshman that's in our group goes to Homestead. So we had some questions for her. She told us her experience. Two of the girls in our group are out of high school now, but are recent graduates of Homestead, and so they gave us their perspective of what it was like even before all this came to light. So we've discussed it, but have we reached out to anybody there? No. I mean, we could. There's no reason we couldn't.
And your question for Julie?
okay, let me think. Where's Julie? Hi. Hi. You mentioned that you, let me see, you put together people of polarizing viewpoints, and that's something that I'm interested in as well, and I'm just wondering what that looks like.
Hello, thank you. I wanted to first respond to your question on activism in the Southwest School. When I heard about that, I did call the superintendent and sat down with him, with that person, and spoke about possible solutions. So what that did, you know what I mean? I do believe that each of us have the ability to make change. And I know that it's like, well, what came of that? But I think if we each follow our heart and do our part, I think maybe a conversation can cause a trajectory change. You know, if somebody just thinks a little different, they're going to end up at a different spot than where they are today. So when I speak about polarized groups, I'd have to be honest, because I am a new consultant and coach in that. Those are new areas that I'm getting into, and my first contract with that has been with the Indianapolis Airport. So right now we're getting ready to do some of that polarizing work, because I do energy work. But when I asked them about What was it, when I filled out the RFP that drew them? Because I thought, gosh, I'm a new venture and they have other consultants and coaches. Why would I be a part of the 2024 team? All of the things that I said to you, they said right back to me. We were interested that you said you bring polarizing groups together. We were interested that you did that. And I have to tell you, I'm following my passion. I'm new. And so I'm just stepping out and doing it. I'm just doing it. Some of the stuff, I've worked with the Fort Wayne Community Schools, their new diversity, equity, inclusion. I was the first person that they brought in to help coach their staff and their leadership as they did the work to do it from a place of high energy and leadership and strategic planning, and for them to filter monthly back and say, okay, this is what we encompassed. It took our energy down, and for us to be coached around why and how do we navigate ourselves so that we can come back with full energy or as much energy as possible to optimize solutions. And so those are the things that I've done. Do I want to do more? Yes, because until we step in those waters, we will not have real change, real lasting change. So I'm looking forward to doing even more.
Okay. I felt weird when someone else. So, I guess it would be for you, Clydia, and Julie. I think, so how do I phrase this?
Clydia, you want to come up? I knew she said.
Okay.
Don't leave me hanging.
So I don't have to ask you, but just trying to deal with microaggressions within the workplace, and then also how do you, because they have the diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging professionals, and yes, as a woman of color, I have dealt with these issues, but there are also microaggressions, and there's burnout, right, with your work, but I'm burnt out with being the educator all the time, and I want to say, I don't want to educate you anymore. Go do it by yourself. I'm tired. But I don't want to say that. But like just trying to remain nice, right? Not be the angry black woman, but also being firm and dealing with those microaggressions because those happen throughout that education.
Yeah, it sounds like you have pretty much a great track record with what you're doing. I would say, too, that's where I was talking about building capacity. We're not changing because a lot of times people don't know what they don't know, and it's hard to see yourself from an outside perspective. That's why it's important, in my opinion, to bring someone in that has a loving disposition and create safe spaces, even for people who you were like, that person is the person that needs the training, but they do need that training. The groups do. I had one contract where groups of the folks that they felt were really needed the training, I would work with them to help give them a safe space to say the things they felt, but then to teach tools to broaden perspective, because so that they could start seeing things a little bit larger. So that's why I'm saying capacity building, I believe, has to occur on both ends so you can work together. Because I talk about catabolic energy. If that catabolic energy, we would say negative energy, I guess, if that is high, there's no room to change. There's no, your pain, on one side it's pain, or other side it's hate. We've got to release it so we can build some capacity for different behavior. And I think capacity building is needed.
When you said diversity, equity, and inclusion, today that's a bad word. We all know that, right? Diversity, equity, and inclusion, we stopped using it. We don't even try to use it anymore because people get upset. They say it's something wrong. It's not what it is. So that's not something that I even use. Microaggression happens every day, all the time, because people don't know that they're doing it. They don't know that it's happening.
I mean, I'm not saying that you don't know, but most of the time you're in a position and you don't know that you're doing it. And it has to be brought to your attention. And we talked about this. I've talked about this with my family. I'm like, when somebody does that to you, this is me getting my voice. There is a way that you can bring that to them, even at a job. You don't, any woman, I don't care what your race is, there's microaggression at your job with men. They can't help it. It's something, and I don't want to talk about men. I'm not against them, okay? I'm not. But there's microaggression going on and people saying stuff to you. You're like, what? What? But you have to be able to address it. We can't just walk away and let it go. That's the part of using your voice. I'm not saying how you do that, because you know I have my own way, right? But that is a part that needs to be addressed.
I would also just start with a conversation. Say, hey, if it's a person or individual, hey, let's brown bag lunch. You know, let's sit and talk, because I want to help you understand that you're doing X and it impacts me this way. And so I want to understand from your perspective why you're doing X, or if there's a different interpretation that I need to have from what you're doing. I mean, I just think we underestimate having the conversation. Sometimes it's difficult. You will either confirm or find a better understanding. And either way is beneficial for you. Either I'm not going to fool with you no more because, yes, you are intentionally doing this, or, okay, now I better understand you, you now better understand me, and we can move forward in that way.
I also just want to say, as a PSA for minorities, not just women or racial minorities, but the experience of having microaggressions, you can go from one thing in a day and be microaggressed. You can go. So I think what's underestimated about the impact or the lack of awareness about microaggressions in this instance is that you can say, as an individual, I don't have bias. I don't treat people like this, right? But you do. And you have to be aware that you're not the only one, right? There's lots of people who are dismissive of experiences that are different from them. And then those people who are different experience that constantly in their day. And so when you speak about the kind of, I forget the term you used, no, not microaggressions, but burnout, right, yes, thank you, burnout, simple word. But that burnout, it's a type of fatigue. It's not just physical, it's mental, it's emotional, because so many people are not seeing you. And we live in a system that teaches us not to see people. So we have to be aware of that as we're on our own racial justice healing journeys. Take that kind of responsibility for yourself. Be aware that if, oops, I said this, maybe I need to backtrack and acknowledge that I missed here, right? That makes a big difference to a person who is constantly exposed to that kind of experience. We have one more question. We have 1 minute.
I'm sorry. I want to kind of comment on some of the things that they've said. She said that diversity is like a bad word. It's because people don't know, or they say things that are rude. It's why diversity really is needed. You need to be diverse in your thinking. You need to be, we all need to be, you need to know that you're saying something that is rude. That's where the diversity comes in. And as far as the schools is concerned, you was talking about a homestead. It is why, now that they want to exclude textbooks by anybody African American. You got Pulitzer Prize winning authors like Maya Angelou and Toni Morrison being excluded out of the schools. And I'm thinking, this is why diversity is needed. This is why the textbooks are needed in the schools. And now if the government is paying for that school, it's like this is government funding. We can't have African Americans. And I'm thinking, okay, we can learn about white America and the like, but everybody else that was born and raised here in this country, you can't learn about them. I mean, I just think that is just, something very mentally lax right there, Diversity is needed.
It is. Thank you. Hold on. Okay. I think you bring up a good point, but that's why I think it's so important to show the type of work that's being done. We can act like people don't have these conversations, but I'm here to tell you my job, what I do, I'm a part of these things. People are having these conversations, and that's why I wanted to give them a platform to show models of allyship. It's so necessary. So, to wrap it up, we want to share with you Friday, April 12th from 6 to 8 at the Tall Rabbit Cafe. There will be an opportunity to speak your truth, I think that? Truth? Yes, okay. So as April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, please join the YWCA at this night where we're empowering women to speak out their truth. There's also the Race Against Racism, April 27th at PFW. The theme is Ally Up, and we will focus on building allies to help shape our community's youth, creating a more inclusive future. I would love to see the community come out and represent. It's a nice, easy thing to do. The more diverse of a crowd we have there, I think we can constantly show Fort Wayne, listen, you're more diverse than you think, Fort Wayne. So we need some great representation out at the
And
Race
you don't
Against
have to run.
And you don't have to run. You could walk, you could participate, you could cheerlead, you can bike too, I think. Can you bike? Is bike? No? Scratch that. You didn't hear that? Okay. You could bring your dogs. You can enter your dogs too. All right. And also, I encourage you all to check out our website. I write monthly Are You an Ally blog posts. Not to toot my own horn, but I think they're all right. So please check that out. You can also sign up for racial justice emails with this QR code. I also want to share with the community that there are a couple opportunities to be trained. We have our Diversity 101 training for businesses. That is kind of a lower level diversity training. It's kind of basic. It goes over some important elements of the kind of social conditions that we're all exposed to. We also have CARE workshops, where CARE stands for Cultivating Allyship and Racial Equity. It kind of expounds upon Diversity 101, but we also walk through the ways in which we can be aware of our biases and also make space to develop our allyship muscles. These are the dates for our future diversity dialogues. I'm super excited about the June 13th one. I think we have some awesome guests lined up. And as always, we ask for you to consider donating to support the work of the YWCA. The mission is so important, where we actively work to eliminate racism and empower women. And that concludes our diversity dialogue. Thank you to our speakers. Thank you to our guests. Thank you to our audience as well.